Welcome to Nkositalkshows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Welcome to Nkositalkshows. Find your own voice. Lead from within. Over to you, Sarifa. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Sarifa, along to your list, Radia. Can you hear me? I could hear an echo. Yeah. Anyway, I'm Sarifa, along to your list from Australia. And I'm an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, speaker, and
are you guys paused? Can you mute yourself, everyone? That's why. Sarifa, you can speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are muted now. You're fine. Speak now.
Okay. Good afternoon, wherever you are. Good evening to some part of the world. I'm Sarifa Alonto Yunis, and I'm an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, author, and a speaker. And I inspire and educate women how to discover or realize their potential and lead. I call it lead to discover your potential. Thank you very much, and I hand it to Brother Kamal.
Thank you very much, Sarifa. Everyone watching, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I have a few questions for you today before I introduce myself. And I want to ask you if you have been living a life feeling lost or not knowing where to go next. Do you have the feeling of having no sense of purpose enveloping you? Do you perhaps even confuse the values you grew up with, the ones you were conditioned into by society and public figures of authority, to your own values? And lastly, do you even feel perhaps being stuck in a hamster wheel, always grinding, always running around with no sense of direction, with a lack of fulfillment and belonging in your life? My name is Kamal Ema. I'm a certified NLP master practitioner, hypnotherapist, and a life purpose specialist. Now, what I do is help you with the combination of ancient Egyptian wisdom and neuro-linguistic programming, create a foundation to a life of harmony, balance, and purpose by uncovering those methods within your life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamal. Over to you, Hassan. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are. My name is Hassan Yunus. I'm an aerospace engineer, retired, serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, and professional international keynote speaker. I present and speak to corporate sector about complacent leadership and how that affects organizational performance and and help business leaders to basically continue on their cycle of success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hassan. So our topic today is how to nurture a healthy relationship. Sarifa, you chose this topic. Could you please explain to the audience why you chose this topic, please, and what does it mean to you? And what do you mean by nurturing a healthy relationship?
Yes, thank you very much, Nomsa. Um, having a healthy relationship, one of the dream of most of the people that you could ever think. In a sense, having a very healthy relationship, regardless where it's a family relationship, business relationship, a corporate organization relationship, husband and wife or partner. Having a very healthy relationship, it means you have achieved one of the utmost dreams that everybody for. Uh, relationship relationships are one size fits all, and factors, emotions, and actions. Nurture healthy relationships, no matter who you love, who you met, or the history you have together. Healthy relationship do have a certain core trait. A healthy relationship is one in which you feel valued, trusted, and respected in different forms, shapes, and levels. By saying everybody wants to be valued when they are in a relationship, regardless if it's a subordinate, a superior relationship, a husband and wife relationship, business partner relationship. You want to be valued, you want to be trusted and respected because that's what makes you, that's what forms a relationship very healthy. For me, any relationship without nurturing will eventually fall apart. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how strong the foundation. For me, it's like building a house with a strong foundation. It will always be a house, but it will fall apart without maintaining and nurturing it. You want to make it a home, not just you want to make it a home, not just a place to sleep. The same thing in a healthy relationship. It requires both parties to put in the time, attention, and love required to nurture and strengthen that. For me, whether your relationship is thriving or stuck in a rut, you can take steps to improve it. For me, it is very important that we make an effort to work at our relationship every day, and we will be rewarded with a deeper connection. It's also like a plant that you need to constantly water it, nourish it with sunlight if there are inside your house. To make an effort to nurture every relationship so it stays healthy. You do it, that applies to any relationship, and that's my take. I'm sure Kamal and Hassan have their own take as well.
Kamal, what is your own opinion on this one?
I love how you introduced it, Sarifa, in that perspective of nurturing relationships, right, and the values that they have. For me, one of the most important factors in any relationship are the values that you live by for yourself. If they are matching with the other person, now you can have a relationship with somebody. It can be a resourceful relationship. It can be an unresourceful relationship. The question is, what do you want that relationship to end up with? Do you want to learn from each other? Do you want to expand on each other's growth? Or do you want to abuse that relationship? Now, I'm saying that abuse because it is part of many relationships that people don't understand or people don't see until sometimes it's too late. That can be in business, it can be with leaders, it can be with your loved ones, family members, and it can be with your partner. However, we are looking at the positive side of relationships. We are looking at how to nurture them, like you said, how to develop a sense of relationship that is healthy constantly. That constant requires constant change. And since we are evolving, we are in constant motion and change. That is the constant. The moment we decide as a couple of people knowing each other in a relationship with each other, the moment we decide to stop growing, to stop challenging each other into that growth, is the moment that relationship for me dies or declines, let's put it this way. Nurturing means understanding as well how we communicate with each other. Nurturing means catering for another person's needs before ours sometimes. But above anything else, to me, a healthy relationship is built on values and principles. If your principles don't match, it is very difficult to maintain a healthy relationship. For me, at least, I rarely want to go into business or into a relationship, whatever it may be, with somebody that doesn't have the same values or principles as me. Because at some point, somebody will be stepping on someone else's toes. And for me to live my authentic life based on my values and my principles, I have to follow mine first. For me, that is what I believe can start and nurture a relationship. And beyond that, we can talk about that for ages, but I'd love to hear what Hassan has to say.
Yeah, thank you, Kamal, for this, and also thank you, Numsa, for this opportunity. I agree with you, Kamal, that having common values is very important in any relationship, like you said, whether it's relationship or business or friendship or whatever it may be. It's obviously there has to be an alignment between everyone's values. Otherwise, it won't work. Similar as friends, in high school or at university level, you'll find that you'll end up with friends with like other students who are of similar values. So I totally agree with you with that, and especially when it comes to like life partners and spouse, etc. Um, However, I'd like to add that, and you spoke, Kamal, you spoke about nurturing, and Sarif also mentioned nurturing, which I think is a very important element in um, keeping the relationship alive, right? Or keeping it evolving, keeping it active and proactive, so to speak. But I think before anything else, there's one important element that needs to take place before any of that, for the relationship to actually start or to continue or to be nurtured, because you cannot nurture a relationship with this element, and I'll get to that element shortly, and uh, and that element, I believe, is participation. See, we cannot get anywhere, or we cannot start with anything if there is no participation. Even when you're meeting new people, right? If I use an example again, let's say university or high school, there has to be an element of participation, right, for a friendship and a relationship to start, and there has to be continuous participation for this relationship to continue, right? Even when one party tries to nurture this relationship, if there's no participation from the other end, then obviously this nurturing will not work. So participation is very important in a relationship on both ends, whether they are discussing something, whether they are working on a project, whether they, whatever it may be, even in an intimate relationship, during intimacy, there has to be participation. If there's no participation, it doesn't work, right? I think that's the very important element, that in any relationship, whether it's a family or business or friendship or etc., both or all parties have to be participative, or have to be participating, have to have that willingness to be there And I think that's a very key element of, and from then on, when all parties are participating, then I can nurture it, right, based on the common values that are there. Then I can work on it and things like that. That's my take on that. So yeah, and I'll take it back to Numsa and see her.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Actually, I agree with both of you basically, because I deal with relationships. I'm a love harmonist, which is a matchmaker. So my job is to connect people. So if there is no connection and the values do not match, like Kamal said, and if you go on a date and you don't focus on nurturing that date, it's not going to work. And Sarifa, you spoke about the foundation. It doesn't matter how strong the foundation is. If two people are not connected or they're not nurturing that relationship, eventually it will break the relationship. And Kamal, you talk about the authenticity. Authenticity for me is the biggest thing in a relationship, because I used to go on dates like 10 years, 15 years ago. I go on dates. I knew what I wanted. I knew my personality. I knew my authenticity. But when I date someone, I end up behaving, going with what they want, and not putting me first. So it's very, very important to be authentic. It doesn't matter whether business or friendship, and connection. Hassan, you talk about participating. You have to be committed. If you are working with someone, business, relationship, or family relationship, if it's only one-sided and the other party is not committed, that relationship is not going to work. And Kamal, you talk about the beliefs, the values. So if you don't support my values, why are you with me? So it works in the business as well. I will not work with someone who doesn't support my values, who doesn't support my beliefs. So the reason you guys are all here is because we understand, we speak the same language. We are in the same journey where we want to be. So we understand each other's values, we respect each other's values, and we are embracing each other as we go along, and we are embracing the differences. The difference is we have to embrace it. Some people, when they are in a relationship, they want their spouse to behave like they behave. It ain't gonna work. You like running, or I like running, or you like sports. If you expect your spouse to like sports, the same thing you like, it's not gonna work. But there are some interests that work. So it's okay to have differences in a relationship. Then when you meet each other, you have something to talk about. So you have something to communicate. You have something to laugh about. But there are some differences that destroys the relationships, that can tear a relationship apart. And those are the values, the family values, the big thing that are important. Like if somebody is a family person and the other person is no. So that means you're separate. You're not basically connected, and connection. So thank you so much, guys. I don't know if anyone wants to talk about connection and commitment more, and participating, because these are the things that are a big problem when it comes to relationship. Mostly marriages, divorce costs so much money. So when I get my clients, I always tell them that divorce costs so much money. So you have to take the coaching before you actually gonna go and pick up somebody, because the coaching is free within the company. Everything is included. But men mostly, they don't want to be coached. They know it all. They're like, I know everything about relationships. So I'm like, okay, if you are a wealthy person, you pick the wrong woman, or you are a wealthy woman, you pick the wrong man. 1 year down the line, the divorce will cost you millions, and you're not gonna blame me. So if you want to avoid divorce, you have to make sure that the woman and the man you are picking is the right for you. So you guys, I don't know if anyone wants to pick on that one. Sarifa, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Numsa, Kamal, and Hassan, for your take. By Kamal saying that in any healthy relationship, either you abuse it, you break it, or you make it. Very, very important the relationship stays healthy. But that element of being healthy is, I just want to add on what you said, is the first element is respect. Respecting your partner, respecting your spouse, respecting your company, your organization is a very essential element in any relationship to maintain that healthy relationship. And then uh, trust. Trust involves honesty and integrity, especially for husband and wife. It's very important that don't keep secret from each other, especially when you're apart. You don't worry about pursuing other people, but trust goes beyond believing they won't cheat or lie to you. It also means you feel safe and comfortable with them and know they won't hurt you physically or emotionally. Emotionally, when the trust has been built up, you know they have your best interest in mind, protect you enough to encourage you to make your own choices. And then physical intimacy is very, very important. Physical intimacy is not only things, but that's how you nurture your relationship, especially with your partner. And as Hassan said, teamwork. Teamwork is very important. For me, no man is an island, or one hand can't clap on its own. If you want to clap, if you want to move forward, to achieve your vision as a team, you need to use both hands. So it can't be one-sided. Teamwork is very important. As when you clap, you need two hands to clap through those that noise. So the same as in partnership or in any relationship, teamwork is very important. And of course, that teamwork cannot be established without the element of open communication. When you can discuss anything under the heat of the sun, you don't have to pretend, or you don't have to mask, or always have to be on your tiptoes to say something to your partner. It should be a very safe relationship when you can say anything from little thing to big thing. Open communication is very, very important in healthy relationship, because the more you communicate, the more your or the other side understand you, and being understanding, they will acknowledge your weaknesses, your strength, but be communicating. And I'm gonna go one step backward. Many broken marriages or relationship, or people, they divorce their organization or their company because there is no enough communication. So people can't read us. If we don't say what we feel, people don't see what we feel. They can only make judgment, decision according to what we say. And sometimes, bear in mind also, body language carries big volumes. So by just your body language is not enough for many people to understand you. It can be misunderstood. So that's why for me, open communication is a very important element in a relationship. And I want to take an example. My husband and I, we always communicate, open communication. Sometimes it's hurting him or it's hurting me, but that's the truth is. We need to diagnose. We need to diagnose it, because if we want to live a life that we want, we need to have that open communication, because maybe I don't want it, or maybe he doesn't want it, but I can't read his actions, and he cannot read also my action. But me communicating and him communicating also, it gives me an understanding, and the information provided to me make me help me to make the decision. So without that open communication, it's like a wand that you keep putting a band-aid on wound until it's infected inside, and then it turns into cancer, and then at the end, divorce happened because of that. A little thing, open communication is very, very important. And also by saying also that the steps is, of course, the commitment. Once there is an open communication, commitment, it stands very strong through thick and thin. It is not just something that is said for effect at weddings. It has a deeper place in both the partners' lives. It means putting each other and the relationship first before anything else. So commitment for me, as you said before, is the other one that I really like to talk about, like spending quality time together. That builds up that commitment. Or in any relationship, go on a date once a week or whenever you get a chance, and appreciate each other. Appreciate each other's effort or action your partner does, regardless if it's big or small. That builds up the commitment also. So that's what I can. And then the last one I would say is compromise. This is where we give and take, and it's a very essential element. No, that we need to compromise. Nobody's perfect. Our ego, sometimes we need to put it aside. Sometimes also we need to, that compromise will make it very easy for anybody if there is a proper channel of communication. When there is a two-way communication where one side is listening and then the other side is talking, and then you can take turn. Because when we understand each other, we have that open communication, and then we can always compromise. Compromise is very, very essential in any relationship. We must put our ego aside, or whatever it is. It doesn't reduce us to compromise. Only our ego. Only our ego that we feel we're being reduced. But physically, you are not being reduced. You keep your integrity. And also, that love between you and your partner, or whatever the relationship, it grows stronger. Because when both are compromising, like, let me put this as an example. My husband is coming from a different culture. I'm coming from a different culture. He does things according to his background, to his belief and the value, Kamal said. And then the same thing with me. If it doesn't hurt me physically and emotionally, I can compromise. My thanks God, he does compromise also. So we meet halfway, you build the bridge closer and closer and stronger. When you are not compromising, you are making that bridge apart until itself, because nothing is holding you. But when you compromise halfway, until you commit that relationship and you nurture it, very important. It doesn't compromise and doesn't always mean you are sacrificing your independence or your freedom. It just means at times it's okay to take a back seat and let the situation take precedence over everything. So I would like Kamal, maybe you have something to say on what I have said. Either he would maybe agree or disagree.
I agree. Yeah, you know what? I agree with most of what you're saying. I could also disagree, with certain points, because I do like disagreeing just for the sake of disagreeing. You know. No, but I love your emphasis on the communication and the compromise. However, my stand on compromise is very crucial here. Compromise within your values, within the limits of your integrity and acceptance. If you have to compromise your integrity and your values, I say don't do it, because that breaks you physically and mentally. And this is why I say the values are kind of an important understanding when you start a relationship. As you mentioned, Hassan, as well, participation is important. Of course, you need participation for any relationship, right? that participation, the key to that participation, as you mentioned, Sarifa, is communication. Communication is the cause and the root of all misunderstandings and all problems before anything. Even your internal struggles are based on communication. That communication is defined by the words you use for yourself and how you define them. Like, for instance, you mentioned respect and trust. We're four people, and the four of us can define respect and trust in very different words and different meanings, different outcomes. How we define them defines our communication level or our communication method. Our communication method is also the way that we express ourselves. What I understood from you today, for instance, Sarifa, so far, I understood it in my own eyes and in my own feelings. I didn't communicate a lot my hearing senses. I heard what you said, but I understood it through visual and through feeling and through emotions. If I'm going to explain it that way to somebody that only hears but doesn't see, I will have to use the same vocabulary, the same communication method that that person understands for them to hear me properly. Because if I communicate feelings to them, they won't understand them, most probably. So communication, I've mentioned that before. Communication is knowing how the person in front of you perceives or understands you, being the one knowing what you have to communicate. You have to do the effort to communicate the words in a way that they understand it. So that's where that open communication that you've been talking about is very, very crucial in a relationship. And that takes both to work on it. That participation that you mentioned in the beginning, Hassan, that understanding, that learning of each other, the process that it takes to understand if our values match, if our beliefs match, if our communication methods are understandable to each other, that builds up that health in relationship. You mentioned as well the trust and the respect. Of course, trust and respect. For us, it's I mean, we're speaking here, the four of us, and I'm assuming this is no doubt number one, respect and trust. Other people, they don't have that respect. Other people go in relationships, including myself. I was in a relationship where even though the cup of coffee was not appreciated, the morning cup of coffee. I see my mom and my dad when they make coffee or tea for each other. There's always thank you, there's always please. And they've been with each other for, I don't know, 20 years now, something like that. 20 odd years. There's still a thank you and a please. Anytime, all the time. The participation that you were talking about, Hassan, Sarifa mentioned as well, it's the actions and it's the effort. It's how do you meet each other in the morning? How do you meet each other in the afternoon? Even if you're upset, even if you're sad, even if you're mad, even if you're angry, do you take that split second when entering the door and saying, oh, it's my beautiful wife, it's my wonderful husband, my wonderful partner. It's, oh, I'm going to work. Oh, it's my great leader, my manager. Oh, it's my great coach, my wonderful coach. It's my wonderful colleague. Or do you get into that space and say, like, oh, for God's sake, I have to deal with that person. How are you spending that effort into that relationship? Are you doing that effort alone? Or is it a participation from the other side as well? Are you communicating those emotions in a way that they understand it so that you don't walk on eggshells? Or do you constantly have to walk on eggshells because, oh, this person is very sensitive, so you have to be careful what you mention and all of that? I used to be in a relationship like that. I was walking on eggshells the whole time because everything was like sensitive and, oh no, that you get hurt from that. Oh no, it's not livable. It is not livable. And you are oppressing your own sense of self. So to have that healthy relationship, you need to be able to express yourself, to say, you know what, I don't like that. I'm not going to do it. You know what? That you can do it yourself. I don't want to do that for you today. I don't feel like it. Yeah, but no, I don't feel like it. You have to be able to stand up for yourself and set those boundaries. And that's where it all starts, in complete beginning, from those understandings, from the communication, from the participation, and from that level of values. Are we going to be able to have that healthy relationship? Are we going to be able to nurture and grow each other? Because remember, in any relationship, if there's always that scale, right, of harmony. Sometimes one is above the other, sometimes it's the other one. And when one is down, the other one lifts them up. And when the other one is up, they try to boost them up. That's a healthy relationship, so that they can balance each other whenever it's needed. And if one person, usually, and that is, I mean, I don't have the statistics, but I can bet you on a 95%. If one person in a relationship works on their self-growth and the other one doesn't, it ends up in a split. Always. If you are willing to grow each other, you are willing to support each other grow, that is when a healthy relationship occurs. And that is not only in partnership, it is in the business world. You have a leader that helps you to grow, that leads by example, that steps in the dirt, puts their hand down there and shows it to you. That's a leader that you can trust. That's a leader that you can grow with. And that's a leader that will always support you. And in times of need, you will have to support that leader. So in the business world, as well as relationships, intimate relationships, it's the same thing. Are you willing to participate, like Hassan says? Are you willing to have an open communication, like Sarifa says? And are you willing to give it your all so that you can both grow and be your best?
So much. Thank you so much, Kamal. Hassan, do you have anything to say?
Wow, Sarifa and Kamal, like they really unpacked this whole topic into bits and pieces, which is amazing. You know, both of them, and yeah, I think I would agree with Kamal on the compromise element. Obviously, there has to be certain limitations on what you compromise on, as long as it doesn't violate your values and your principles within the family values, I guess, and all that. So I agree with that. Yeah, we do need to compromise, because when we enter into a relationship, whether it's personal or whether it's business.
Hold on, Hassan. Kamal and Sarifa, are you guys muted? Sarifa, are you muted?
No. No, can you hear me? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So when we enter a relationship, whether it's business or personal or work related, we do need to compromise, because suddenly we're no longer living in our independent state, right? We suddenly become independent/dependent. Yeah, because we're dependent on our colleagues, we're dependent on our bosses, we're dependent on our spouses, our partners, and all that. So we live a two-part life of independence and dependence, and I guess that's where the compromise and the understanding comes into play. But obviously, as long as it doesn't violate the values and the principles on which you hold dear, or everyone holds dearly to them, or live by. So yeah, so having that independence and dependence coupled with the understanding would affect the health of a relationship. And what Sarifa mentioned, all of the elements, I mean, like in terms of trust and confidence and commitment and teamwork and all of these things. Yeah, obviously they'll work perfect if we live in a robotic world where you enter these elements in, right, and you fix them. Okay, you got to be trustworthy, you got to be respectful, and then this is what you live for. This is how you operate from 9 to 5 or whatever. But obviously, as Kamal said, everyone is different, and everyone interprets different things and defines respect in a different way and defines compromise in a different way and things like that. And I think that's where us as human beings will fall into that loophole or into that faltering elements where we no longer can recognize where we are going wrong. You know, we no longer recognize if we are respectful or disrespectful, or whether we are understanding or misunderstanding, or whether we are forgiving or not forgiving. So we as people we tend to misinterpret and misdefine our own selves in those elements to the point where it violates our partners, our spouses, or our colleagues and bosses and things like that. And yeah, so that's where the tricky part is, and I think that's where the majority of if I can say divorces occur. Whether it's in the personal relationship or whether it's in business or work, because everyone has a different interpretation of what these elements are in terms of trust, respect, commitment, teamwork, understanding, communication, all of these things. And sometimes even communication, even when we say the wrong word, it could be misinterpreted, or even the tonality of the word, or even sometimes we stay silent, right, to avoid a problem, and then it becomes a problem because we're silent. So yeah, I mean, having said all of these things, it still falls down on our own interpretation and how we define certain elements.
I have to laugh at what you were saying right now, Hassan, because you reminded me of when I was a teenager, speaking to my mom. Right, I had done something naughty. I remember that day very well. I had done something naughty, and I was standing in front of her, and she was sitting, and she was yelling and giving me that scolding, right? And so I wasn't looking at her, and then she tells me, "Look at me when I'm talking to you." So I start looking at her, and she continues on. And then I'm still looking at her, and she tells me, "Don't look at me like that when I'm speaking to you, when I'm scolding you." And then, you see, you're talking about the same thing. This is talk, but I'm looking, right? So imagine that silence, or looking and not looking. And then, of course, I was a teenager and I was rude. They're like, "Well, make up your mind. Either I look at you or I don't." He goes, "Go to your room." So, "You insolent boy, go to your room." Okay, fine.
That is a perfect example, right? I mean,
that's the example that you mentioned. When you're being silent, well, it's a problem. You're not being silent, well, it's still a problem.
Yes. Yeah. So
I used to actually play silence games sometimes in relationships, but when I started studying psychology, I looked back, I was like, I'm doing an assignment, and I was like, it felt like I was doing an assignment for me, and it's like everything was directed to me, and I felt ashamed. I was like, I would just laugh. I'm doing an assignment, I would just laugh for 5 minutes, and I'm like, is this me? Oh my goodness. I'll look back, I'm like, oh my God, this is awful. Honestly, I used to play silence if I'm not happy, or we have to go to family dinners. If I'm not happy to go, I would, instead of explaining, I would just zip it. I'm not happy. But then when I started psychology, I was like, this is awful. I would just do an assignment, and then I go on through to the things that I would take for granted. I'll be like, wow, this is amazing. So this is important, Hassan. Silence in a relationship, it does not build a relationship. It does not build a character. It's a personality that is basically I don't know. I cannot describe the personality. If anyone is doing it in a relationship, you have to actually, because that is putting actually a stronghold chains in that relationship. If you're not happy, why not express it? Just say, I'm not happy. Like Kamala was saying, you want somebody to go and take the trash out, and your spouse, just see your spouse, if he doesn't want to, they don't want to. They don't feel like it. Not like, I don't feel like it today, and I'm not going to do anything. Like yesterday, I normally do lives on Sunday. I was like, I don't feel like it. I have not watched TV for 5 months or 6 months. And I was like, I'm just going to sit down here and relax. I'm not doing anything. So I was like, I'm relaxing. And sometimes there are times where I say to my spouse, could you please make us some food? We love his cooking. When you know, with every food that you don't cook, you love it. And sometimes in the minute, he's just going to go and cook his food and just eat it in front of us. And like, you want something, go and cook. And the other day we fell asleep, me and my daughter, we fell asleep on the sofa. So he found the opportunity for revenge, because normally we leave him to wake up on Friday. If he falls asleep, we watch TV. He's somebody that when he loves his sleep. If he falls asleep on the sofa, you wake him up, he will just get upset and say, but I wasn't sleeping. Well, you were sleeping. So we decided we're no longer waking him up. So we fell asleep the other day, and he just got his revenge. We woke up in the morning and we're like, where are we sleeping? And I was like, what? Why are we here? And he was like, oh, now you know what it feels. So sometimes people can do whatever they want. So sometimes I used to be really, really serious about these things, the relationship, and I'll be like, my father used to treat me like this, so I want to be, I want to be treated like a princess. And then because I'm not used to somebody saying no to me, I wasn't used to someone saying, someone telling me off. My father never told me off, but there were instructions, there were values, the family values that it has to be followed. So I was that child that would do what the parents want me to do. I would just get on with it because I don't like people screaming at me. So if somebody explains what they expect of me, I'm somebody who gets on with it. Even if I go and do training, if somebody tells me what they expect from me, even with the business, I have to finish the task. So I am that person. So because I wasn't used to being told off, so when a spouse tells me off, I'm like, I'm not used to that. So I'll get upset until I came to an understanding that people are different. We are all different. So whatever I was raised with, I now need to nurture my own journey using my own based on that relationship. So, and connecting with people. And I didn't know how to connect. Basically, so many things that you guys have mentioned that people are struggling with all these things. Even if I'm not happy in that relationship, I'll just stay in it for the sake of it's been a long time, and I'll be worrying what people gonna think. What this, and the inside I'm frustrated. So I've learned to actually understand the spirit of love. So Sarifa, you were talking about the giving and receiving. So I had to understand that when I enter a relationship, I have to ask the other person, how can I serve you? And then learn to receive at the same time, because it's not all about giving, it's about receiving as well. A relationship has to have a balance. If there is no balance, both of you guys, you have mentioned that the foundation is going to break. And you have to understand, Kamal, you were saying, if somebody says no, it doesn't mean they don't love you that day. It just means they don't feel like it, and everyone is allowed to express their feelings. So thank you so much, guys. But what I need to ask on behalf of the audience, if anyone is watching, if anyone is dating the wrong person and they are having problems after problems, Sarifa, what is the solution? What can they do? because there are so many people who are in relationships, is fight after fight, silence after silence. There's no connection, there is no communication. What can they do?
Thank you very much, Nonsa, Hassan, and Kamal for your take. For me, as I said earlier, that healthy relationship is not one size fits all. Everyone is different, as there are elements also that contribute to that. As Kamal said, it's our values, our beliefs, and how we look at things, because I may be looking at my own lens. I have my own perspective, but the other person have a different perspective, because it also depends on her background, where she coming from, because there are also few factors that can affect that. Is our cultural background, our upbringings, as our values and beliefs. And these are the common things that it can cause a lot of problems sometimes. When I said compromise on that little thing that it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't weigh your wing down. It does not reduce you. So those are the compromise that I was saying. However, there are certain things, as Kamal said, that we cannot compromise at all. It's like your beliefs, your values. That's so important to you. Like my husband and I, coming from a different culture, and I always have to compromise, and likewise he does. But there are certain things that we do not compromise, and we make it very, very clear. Like for me, I make it very clear. There are certain things that I cannot compromise, and you can chop off my head, and I will not give in to that, because it is something for me that I cannot. Like example, my beliefs. When I say I need to pray, or that has to be respected, you know. So there are certain things, especially beliefs. This is always, most of the people who are husband and wife coming from a different cultural background, this is always sometimes some of the problems that could arise. By saying that also, it is, having a relationship is not like buying a clothes and one day you don't like it anymore and you either return it to the shop or you chuck it in the rubbish bin. No, it doesn't work that way. And I want to tell you a story, if my husband would allow me. In marriage, it takes two to tango. And the more you know each other, the more you understand each other. And the more you can work together to know a very healthy relationship. In my experience, I really believe that the first to 5 years is very hard, especially first year to 3 years. That's a very, very critical stage of marriage, because you start to know each other, a lot of things, and understand each other and compromise and all those things. It's easier to said than done, but this is what's happening. If you survive the 3 years of marriage, it's like you breathe. It's like in your primary school, you complete until grade 6. And then if you survive the 5 years, and then it can only get easier and easier. If you survive the 10 years, then everything gets easy. The more you know him, the more you understand, the more you compromise, not compromising on a big thing that you just cannot, right? When I just got married to Hassan and I'm asking his permission again, I was very upset with him. And then, you cannot believe this, I called his brother and I called his mom and his dad. And my husband was coming from work at 4 o'clock. And I told my brother-in-law and my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, at 4:30, I want to have a discussion, family discussion. My husband came from work. I'm not sure if you still remember. And I said, maybe Hassan did not make the right decision when he married me. And maybe he's not ready. So I'm endorsing your son to you, because there is an issue, there is a problem. But if you look at it, it's a very tiny, tiny problem that me and him can talk about it. But I involve the whole family. And I said, if this problem goes bigger, at least all of you are aware of it. And then my mother-in-law looked at me. And then he spoke to Hassan. And then my mother-in-law said, you are not stepping out of that door. As long as I am here, you're not stepping it out from that door. If you step out from the door, and then he looked at Hassan, I am stepping out from this house too, he told Hassan. And she told me, and may God bless her soul. She told me, Sarifa, marriage is not like buying a clothes that you wear it, you don't like it anymore, you give it to someone else, or you chuck it in the bin, or if it's still under warranty, you return it to the shop. No, it doesn't work that way. Marriage is like you are stitched to each other. It's like the piece of cloth, just a cloth, and then you make it a shirt that it needs to be stitched. So it's like that. Unless, she said, a big problem that you cannot compromise, that it cannot be resolved, then divorce is the last resort. And I don't want you to hear you say that ever again. And they said, oh, okay. But as I grow matured, and then I survived years and years. Now we are married for 22 years. We are almost 23 years. Then, because I get to know him, the more I spend time with him, the more I get to know him. But there are certain times that, no, it's my way or no way. And I get so upset about it. But one good thing is he compromised a lot. But I know that because it's a little thing, and he sacrificed. And then I appreciate that. That's why appreciation is very important, that I will openly communicate with him, that I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm really sorry, and I apologize. And when my husband and I are having an issue at night, I can't sleep. And I know he couldn't sleep too. And then he faced the other way, and I faced the other way. And we keep tossing. And I just could not sleep the whole night because I'm just like that. I want to communicate. I want to resolve things there and then. I want to say it and clear it. Okay, what went wrong? What's the problem? Because for me, I really believe every problem there is a solution. And then until it's okay, I have enough. Switch on the light. Come, get up, and we need to talk about this. We need to resolve it. We need to talk. Just pretend that I'm sleeping when I'm not sleeping. So let's talk about it. So that's, I could say that relationship require hard work to maintain. It does not matter how close you are with your partner. You are going to need to work at your relationship to maintain its integrity. One way you can nurture your relationship is to actively work toward improving your relationship. Unless you can't improve it, then you have to think twice. When problem arise, find solutions. Every problem, there is a solution. And one thing also, don't blame anyone or attack your partner or that person. Instead, attack the problem. Always be willing to improve, both for your own sake and your partner's. Then put it in the hard work toward fixing these problems areas. When things get tough in your relationship, resolve not to give up right away or avoid the whole thing, avoid having a hard conversation. That's when the silence works. That maybe give space to each other. Don't talk. Don't converse because you can only hurt each other. You just add an insult to a wound. So work on your partner in good times and in bad times. And that's what I can tell and share to the audience. And thank you very much. And I would love Kamal and Hassan to have something to say. Thank you.
I love the concept of marriage. You work on it, obviously, right? When it comes to that stage before, if you're not married, if you're dating and all of that, my understanding of it is very different because, let me put it this way. If you're not happy in a country, you can pack your bags and leave. If you're not happy in that next country you go into, you can still pack your bags and leave. And now you land in the third country. You realize, well, it's not the country that's the problem. You're just not happy with yourself. You can't really leave and do anything without it. So you have to solve that issue with yourself first. Now, relationships, in my opinion, they are an absolute there's an absolute massive work to be done. Sometimes relationships, they just flow as they are. There's no work to be done. Almost no work to be done. I'm not going to say there's no work to be done. There's always work, right? There's always improvement. There's always growth. There's always communication. But sometimes you have these relationships where they're so simple. They're meant to be. They're part of you, whether they're your soul mate, whether they're your soul friend, your twin flame, whatever you want to call it, right? You have these relationships that are flowing. If you are in a marriage that doesn't work, that is hurting you physically, mentally, why push yourself if you are not capable of, if you have exceeded your limits of working on it, but still no results? Why are you forcing yourself? Is it because perhaps you have a trauma of your parents being divorced? That happens a lot, right? People that get married with the divorced parents, they want to maintain that sense of family with their partner, even if it's not working, even if the values and the beliefs are not similar. The compromise doesn't work, and they still try to maintain it. Why? Because they have that trauma of a separated family, and they don't want that to happen to them or to their children. So they force themselves to do things that are outside of their heart or their authenticity. That is dangerous for your soul. That is dangerous for your mind and even for your physical body. If you're in a relationship where you are feeling painful, where you are feeling the pain in your body, where you are feeling mental exhaustion, if you cannot solve it, like Sarifa says, you have to end it for your sake if you want to live. Remember, we are all in this together. Life starts within you. If you are happy inside, the people around you will be happy. And if they're not happy, it's their problem. Like Sarifa was saying, you try to find a solution first from your perspective. It's not blaming the others. A partner cannot offer happiness to another partner. You find happiness within yourself first. A partner cannot offer you the success of a relationship. You find that success within yourself first. If you believe in creation, we have been created perfectly imperfect. That imperfection that we have in us to seek that perfection is that part of us that allows us to grow. And if you don't look into that imperfection, then why are you in that partnership? Partnerships are never perfect. They can be harmonious. They can be balanced. They can be unbalanced. They can be chaotic. How you want to grow that relationship, whether you want to try it or not, is up to you. I don't give advice for people to leave each other or to leave your business, but if you're unhappy, why stay where you are? If you have tried all the exits, working on a marriage, working on a relationship, working with your boss or leaders, working at your job, if you are miscontent, I think that's the word, right? With yourself, if you are miscontent with that position you're in, if you have tried everything or everything that you know, be happy and leave. But that's not an advice. That is up to you to choose. Again, the choice is yours to continue or not to continue. The choice is yours to work or not to work. The choice is yours to be happy with yourself before you enter in any relationship, so that you don't blame that person for your happiness or your unhappiness, so that you don't blame that person for your success or your failure. Because the only person that there is to blame is you for taking or not taking the choices that are presented to you. Thank you.
Hassan?
Yes, very nice perspectives from Sarifa and Kamal. Very insightful, and yeah, absolutely. My take on your question, Nusa, is, and my take is a bit of what Kamal mentioned towards the end. Um, you have to understand, and this I'm addressing the audience now, right? Um, you have to understand there's no Mr. Perfect and there's no Miss Perfect. Okay, there's no perfect job. There's no perfect career. Right? There's always gonna be flaws. There's always gonna be buts, or there's always gonna be what ifs. Right? So that's the starting point of any relationship, whether it's a personal or a work career relationship. And from that point, from that perspective, when you are uh, um, getting to know someone, right? It's about first understanding you as a person. Understand yourself first. Understand your values. Understand your principles. Understand who you are and how you behave and how you think, right? And then the second step, understand the other person. Understand their values. Exactly what Kamal said before. Understand their values, their principles, their behavior, their thinking, right? Because it's only then that you're able to match. It's like the gears; they click into place, click, right? Um, Physical attraction is an instinctual thing. It comes naturally. You look at a person and say, "Wow, he's hot or she's hot or I like her," and things like that. That's superficial, yeah. That's common everywhere. But you gotta look at who they are first, who you are, and then who they are, right? Because we are not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No one's perfect, right? There's no Mr. Perfect. There's no Miss Perfect. We got to understand that, and because of this element, um, the gears have to click together to stay in place. Because if the gears don't stick together and they're sort of like on the outside, they will slip, and there will always be conflict within the gears. Yeah, if I can use the mechanical terms, there'll always be sliding and conflicting because the gears are not clicked together. They're not matching. One gear is smaller and the other gear is bigger, and or the other gear has more teeth than the first one, and things like that. So you gotta look at these two things and see, do they match? Do they fit in there? And if they don't, right? If they don't, then obviously it's not the right gear. Yeah. So you need to change the gear and get another gear to make sure it fits in that sense. So uh, the advice that I'm saying here is not to leave the relationship or stay in a relationship, but you've got to do your work before you step into a relationship, before you take the first step into that relationship, and make sure the gears click together. That's my advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We've run out of time, and you guys have been amazing. And it's actually amazing. You guys talk about different things by speaking in one voice. And Kamal, my basically, when you said happiness when you are not happy, and Hassan and Sarifa, happiness is found within. Then the relationship will be built. If you find happiness within, you will never be disappointed. And even if you do things that don't work your way, that don't work how you want them to be, you're still gonna keep going. So thank you so much, guys. Quick words of encouragement, Sarifa, please, for our audience before we go.
Yes, all what I can see, wherever and whatever your relationship you are in, whether it's work or a partner or husband and wife or a corporate organization business, keep nurturing it. And we have given you already the elements. However, to stay in that, nurture that relationship to make it lasting and happy relationship. However, by saying that also, I have this saying that rolling stone does not collect moss. So you can't keep rolling and going to different jobs from jobs to jobs, because not all jobs are yours. You need to make the decision. You need to understand, acknowledge your limitations, weaknesses, and strengths. And based on that, acknowledge them, then you make decision whether you're going to stay or you're going to leave. But we can't keep rolling and we can't keep moving. Otherwise, you will be like a rolling stone that does not collect moss. So that's what I can say to the audience. And we have given you certain elements and steps how to nurture a happy relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sarifa. Kamal, please, words of encouragement.
I'll make it very short. To have any external relationship work, whether it's partnership, business, intimate, family, the most important relationship you need to work on is yourself. Understand and work on your relationship with yourself, then figure out how to work out with the rest. It will come easier. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamal. Hassan, please.
For me, I would say communicate. Right, first, your first option, communicate. If that fails, negotiate. If that fails, seek professional advice. Don't go to your mother or to your sister or to your best friend and get therapy.
I'm laughing because what Sarifa said, she texted her mother-in-law. That's what my friend did as well. She got her in-laws when she was telling me what happened. I was like, you did what? And I was like, this is forbidden. You cannot involve your in-laws in relationship. And she was like, I did it. And basically, the mother-in-law went, if you're not happy, why don't you divorce him? And she ended up divorcing, separating with the guy. And I was like, you did what?
Yeah. So don't go asking your mother or your brother or your best friend. Don't seek professional advice, counselors.
I go with Hassan in negotiations and no involving the in-laws. So thank you so much, everyone who is watching. If you're watching the video and you love the message, please press some heart button and share some love with your friends and family. And live with grace, everyone. We are here Monday to Friday in Nkositalkshows Talk Show, 1 p.m. If you want to connect with any of the speakers and you want to talk to them about whatever you're going through, there's an email there. You can contact Kamal or you can contact us direct on the page. I would love to say you can contact me, but he's in charge for the speakers. So you can get in touch with him, because if you come to me, I'll refer you to him. So there's no point. So I love you guys. Live with grace, everyone. And thank you to the speakers. You guys were amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.